or whenever you're ready. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, in the interest of time, we will get going. Kicking off our first transportation committee meeting of the year. I just changed my notes over. So happy New Year, everyone. And yes, we can still say that on Facebook.
Okay.
So we will, I'll take attendance in a second and then, if we could go around and, just do a round of introductions, I think that would be great. We have some guest speakers with us today. And, every now and then it is always good to kind of do those things. So first off, or maybe introduction counts as
Attendance, yeah.
Let's do that. Okay, great. So that we don't forget you, Portia, if it's all right, I'll begin with you online and then we'll move maybe Stanis to you after that.
Hey, I'm here and my name is Portia Hirschman. I've been on transportation now, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I can't remember. And I'm real excited about the metro possibilities.
Stanis Moody Roberts, my first year on the transportation committee, and thank you so much for our guests for coming and taking the time to talk to us.
I'm John Anderson. I'm on the town council. I'm the liaison to this committee. I've been on the council for 6 years, 5 years on the transportation committee. Or this is my 5th year on the transportation committee. And again, we just had our council goal setting this past weekend, and I think everybody's really excited about both of these projects in terms of helping to address traffic in some of our key corridors.
I'm Mike Tremblay. I'm of Greater Portland Metro. I'm here to talk about the service we'll be launching here in the next few months and any questions you have. So thanks for having me.
I'm Jen Ladd. I'm the chair of the transportation committee here and have been on this committee for a number of years. I also sit on our planning board here, which offers an interesting correlation, and I'm a transportation engineer by trade during the day, and some of the overlap is also of interest to me. So
Craig Robinson, it's my 5th year on the transportation committee.
I'm Will Gale. I'm the Deputy Director in the Bureau of Planning at Maine Department of Transportation.
Joyce Taylor, I'm the Deputy Commissioner. I still have to practice saying that, so I was the Chief Engineer for 12 years at Maine DOT. I am Angela Blanchett, Town Engineer here in Scarborough.
Chuck Bartley. I've been on the transportation committee since spring 24. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today. So thank you for coming.
Roger Greeley. I've been on this committee for a while. I'm on the planning board as well. I drive a car.
Qualified.
Tom Hall, town manager, interested in both topics. That's why.
Great.
okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Our next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from our meeting on December 9th. Angela sent those out previously. Did everyone get them? Does anyone have any questions or comments, edits?
Jen, I need to recuse myself. I was not in attendance at that meeting.
Okay, fine, thank you. Is there a motion to approve these minutes? Okay, all in favor? Great, thank you. And moving on, our next agenda item is a review of the Portland West project.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to Angela for inviting us, and I'm feeling guilty that you guys are sitting back there. If you take your seats. Are we? No? Okay.
We don't normally sit in here, so.
Oh,
no one has
okay,
seats.
so this is.
Yeah.
New,
Oh,
okay.
I like to watch everybody.
You remember the Muppet Show?
Yeah, I've kind of. Yeah, so I will say, I think I was 24 and I got on the Augusta Planning Board, and I'm that was an interesting lesson in civics. We were just approving, site law approval and the new marketplace wall that started all the commercial development up there, so it's very contentious at the time. So thank you for inviting us. I think it's no secret that the Gorham connector, didn't necessarily go well in terms of the public process and how it was laid out, and really, there were some bills, I think Senator Brenner sponsored at least 3, that was sort of trying to put the kibosh on the connector project. And as you know, we offered to step in and do this Portland West study and say, you're gonna talk to the public, we'll have a robust project process. We don't have preconceived notions. Will and I and our team have not really been involved in this. I was never really involved in the Gorham connector. So I want to go to the next slide. So we're really trying to start off by talking to people. That's really the first step. And so we've talked to some of the towns. We've talked to, I can never remember their name, but Miles Smith and Paul Drennan. And have met with them. We're meeting with Bicycle Coalition of Maine tomorrow. Who else we've talked to a ton of people, but mostly it hasn't been in this kind of public forum yet. So you're not transportation conference. There was a panel there, but I wouldn't necessarily call that a public forum because it's really all people in transportation. So we want to explain to you what we plan to do. Our goal is to have you trust us through our actions and not to ask you to trust us right now, okay? We're gonna try to be really transparent about our process, have a stakeholder group. We're going to have one big stakeholder group, and we're gonna have some other groups around probably like land use and some other topic areas. Housing is one of the things that keeps coming up. So our project goals, we use the word holistically and collectively. Really want to do that. We need to look, the public at various times, I don't think necessarily at public meetings, but expressed publicly, they wanted the turnpike to look at the existing intersections, to look at what else could be done other than a four-lane highway. So one of the things I think that we need to do is to say who is experiencing mobility issues and congestion. And frankly, let's define what that means instead of, being in a room saying, there is no congestion, there isn't, like, let's define it. And at least we all know what we're talking about in the same way, right? Yeah, because people, what is congestion for me may not be for Will, depending on our experiences. And, really, I can tell you, right before COVID, we kept having secondary incidents on 295 between Portland and Yarmouth. I mean, I was talking to people who were like screaming about their kids were gonna get kicked out of daycare because they were late to pick them up all the time. I mean, they were stressed. They were really stressed. And so that meant something to them, right? That they didn't have a reliable ride. And so I think a lot of times what people are really talking about is reliability. And so but we're gonna try to define that with public input, instead of just defining it ourselves.
Yeah, can I add?
Yeah.
Just a thought. So obviously, we're talking roads, so congestion is the primary focus we're trying to fix. And I think partly why the Gorham connector didn't work in Scarborough was because of other values that were important to the community that came in conflict with just mobility. So again, I think of protecting our waterways. So like the Red Brook situation was a huge issue for many residents. Protecting our farmlands, even though Smiling Hill Farm was not part of Scarborough, it's so close that it feels like it's part of Scarborough and was an important thing for a lot of our residents who visit there.
It is.
Yeah, or some of the property, yeah, correct. And then I think it's particularly in that area, the preservation of trying to maintain the current, character of North Scarborough, which a lot of residents feel like is rural historic. And so again, to me, I think everybody's and wants fixes to the road, but it has to also align with the values of the community that I think really was what was the issue with the connector at the end of the day.
I think as I go through this, I can speak to that for you. And I think part of that is the next bullet, you know, what are alternatives for the existing roadway and intersection improvements, and what does that look like? And we're starting fresh with traffic analysis. We're hiring our own consultant. We're not using any of the work the Turnpike and HNTV did. We're not using that. We're doing our own thing. One of our commitments is to look at these existing intersection as well as, you know, a new roadway, but the first step is the existing conditions, and can we improve those? And what does that improvement look like? Is it good enough? And so we will come, and we're committed, you'll see in the kind of the third phase, to go through those with people and try to explain that in ways that make sure that we're not talking over people and that we're talking to people, with people. And so I do think, if you did read our RFP, you would think that looking at transit and active transportation was missing. That's because there was another RFP that was done a couple of years ago.
Yeah, year and a half ago.
That was gonna be part of the Gorham Connector. We're repurposing that RFP with Cambridge Systematics to be part of this work. So we've had to explain that a couple of times, but we are committed to looking with Metro at, you know, the rapid bus transit, active transportation, because people asked us to. And I don't think it's, if you wanna go to the next one, I don't think it's expressed. Sorry, I can't say that word. I didn't mention the environmental impacts here, but definitely we've had a lot of conversation about Red Brook and the wetland impacts. Truthfully, Maine DOT approaches things differently because we're beholden to the NEPA process. If we were to use federal money, the way we communicate with the environmental agencies is different. And so we would be looking at minimizing impacts and having conversations. That's just part of what we do every day. And so we've already been looking, you know, things like, are all the ramps necessary? Because that's where a lot of the impacts were. And what does that look like? So it's gonna be a wide range of things, but we'll be transparent about those options. To your point, I think one of the things we want to do is work with you, the town, and make sure that we're clear with you about potential intersection improvements that could happen. And talk to you, because at the end of the day, you know, if everyone's opposed to this, it's still not gonna happen. We're not interested in slamming this down people's throats if they're really opposed, okay? At some point, it will come to a head another time, but if we can have, you know, a conversation and see if we can get some things done. You know, we've been in other situations where got a 30% improvement and it was good enough. And so I think those are the type of conversations we want to have once we get the information and understand your values and where you're at. We take historic properties really seriously in our work, look hard at those, do everything we can to not destroy the historic nature of a community. So that's, you know, so we'll be looking at this in one of the next weeks. I hate this thing, they go upside down and all of that. So our project schedule, we put the RFP out, we're underway, scoring the consultant, and then we'll negotiate the chosen consultant. It was gonna be like by the end of this year, and the acting commissioner, Bill Downey, and I talked, I just don't think we can get it done and have really a meaningful public dialogue by trying to squeeze it into a calendar year. So it'll probably go, start February, probably go into next spring would be my guess. We don't want it to go forever. And, you know, we do have a project website that's live right now. It's live as of today. The intent is treat the stakeholder meetings as public meetings. They'll be advertised as such. We want to be transparent and make sure that people can watch the meetings. And so if you want to go to the next slide, I think that's scheduled. Okay, so this is what we're thinking about. Right now, we're trying to pull together a list of stakeholders and the different groups. We're waiting for our consultant to come on board to give us some advice about that. We know there'll be some from Scarborough and each of the towns, and then some other impacted people. One of the things we're focused on right now is really taking a look at the existing conditions, before snow flag. We went out and put out a bunch of traffic counters at, in a lot of different locations that have not had traffic counted for a while. We know that's not necessarily what you do because it's off peak, but we needed something, and in this area, I'm not so sure that we're talking, the peak is really gonna matter for the initial conversations. So, you know, we're committed to looking at what's there now and trying to define it. And then looking at safety, I think a big purpose and need of this project, right, is always safety and what's happening at current intersections. And that could be improved mobility, but also safety. So, come spring, I hope that we'll be into our second phase of public and stakeholder engagement. We should be standing up some groups. I think it's housing, land use, I feel like that was this one.
Yeah, housing, land use, transit, active transportation.
And environmental.
And environmental groups, yeah.
So we're gonna be doing that. We are gonna do a multimodal travel demand model. And, you know, I've had some people say, you know, you can make a traffic model, say whatever you want. I've been known to actually call the traffic engineers that work, the voodoo engineers of the, because they can make it say anything they want, so you need to, you know, our commitment is to be really transparent about the inputs into the model. So that it's not just this black box that nobody knows what the heck is going on. And so that's one of the things we want to be really clear about, and do need to do some modeling to truth things out, but it still takes some brain power to figure it out. We'll be looking at alternatives development, and that will be a wide range of development alternatives. So I think one of our jobs, as I mentioned, was to truth out, like, is it 20% better? Is it 50% better? Does it solve everything? But what are the impacts by, you know, what are the trade-offs that you're getting in terms of, you know, what people are willing to accept?
Can I ask the question? So when you guys think of alternatives, are you thinking that each alternative will be like a wholesale solution? Or could an alternative be like a slow ramp up where we're making incremental improvements over 10 years to
Yeah.
get to like the 50%
Yeah,
improvement, if that's what the.
yeah, I mean, I think it could be a slow implementation if that's what people are comfortable with. I mean, the reality is there's no money falling from the sky right now. And if it is a new road, the turnpike will have to get involved because we don't have the money to do that. But for now, we've asked them to step away and not be part of this process. And I think it's important for the public trust. And yes, we do talk to them often. I mean, that's the reality of the situation, but we've deliberately not been talking to them about our process. I mean, they know about it, but it's, if we're not sitting down going over this, I don't think they even seen these, to be honest. So we will come back at the end and start to have the public meetings, and like I said, we will explain the traffic modeling and the simulations we did. We will air those out publicly. We will share information with people. Yeah.
It seems to me when you're focusing on our intersections. And I'm just kind of curious, I would say in the last decade, there's been a few roundabouts built in the state.
Yep.
One on 114, one over by USM.
Yep.
And I believe you also just put one up on Route 1.
Yeah, they were saying, yeah.
So you must have some studies or some analysis of how whether those have improved
Yes.
flows through the
Yeah.
intersections. And I would think that would be helpful.
Yeah, we had roundabouts on this, we took it off because we didn't want it to zero right into roundabouts, but certainly a lot of people have mentioned roundabouts. And we will be definitely looking at those, and they're safer too. I mean, we definitely see safety improvements for the roundabouts.
I think that's, you're gonna have to convince people of that, because I have, my impression is that people who see roundabouts, they see this is too confusing,
Yeah,
and it's obviously not safe. So that's gonna be,
I gotta tell you though, I had a mind-blowing experience, and I told them that at the time, so I'm not talking out of school, but we went to Turner, Maine, because Route 4 between Livermore and Turner is one of our deadliest roads in the state. And we get up there and they're all opposed to this traffic light. They begged us for roundabouts. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm in Turner and you guys are literally begging for roundabouts. It was really kind of rewarding to see that people are buying into it, and they were very adamant. That they wanted them and that they deserved them, and it was, I thought, a very interesting meeting because it felt like we've turned the corner a little bit with people. So
You gotta
that,
drag those people with you.
Yeah.
you might be surprised at how often we're being asked for roundabouts now, communities you wouldn't think would be asking. If they're growing and
Another question, how far west of here are you actually gonna go seeking input?
Um,
Because our people live in Buxton. and,
yeah,
uh,
they'll be
Standish
included.
and way out there, I mean,
Yeah.
they go right through this town in Westbrook.
Yeah.
People don't- I mean, they don't have any other choices, you know?
That's our plan, is to go out there and also talk to them. And also try to find out what are the housing plans, and the comprehensive plans, and. You know, I don't think it's a secret that some of the plans don't jive with other plans, and. You know, that's not something we're necessarily gonna solve, but maybe trying to help facilitate conversations about. You know, if we do this, but you do that, you know, I think one of the topics that keeps coming up right now that we're trying to figure out is the proposed Amazon facility in Oro. And that's a whole monkey wrench, but I think, we're gonna have to figure that out, and because people are gonna ask about it, right? We can't ignore anything that people are gonna ask about. And that's part of it, we're not gonna have all the answers, but we'll try to at least get enough information that we can have informed conversations. That's really our goal, is to have informed conversations with people and not necessarily push, we want it to be accepted, and I think if it can't, we won't do certain things, or we'll only do some things, or. So, and again, there's not, all that free federal money that was out there isn't coming right now, and so we're, I don't know how we're gonna pay for some of this stuff, but that's, the point is to get to solutions and then worry about the funding and figure it out, yeah.
Couple of things, the first, speaking just to that, we spent the past year, putting together a transportation plan for Scarborough, or evaluating actually a transportation plan, did a vulnerability assessment. And there's so much that we want to do. We want to do complete streets. There's so much, there's excitement that we have in how we can make our transportation system so much better than it currently is. And then really depressing vulnerability assessment where so much of Scarborough is at risk, so much of our roadway infrastructure is at risk, with kind of unfathomable sums of money, like with Route 1, in order to fix certain areas. We had a couple big projects that were advanced through PATS, and we were really excited about. And it sounds like it's not official yet, but the current transportation, or the work plan for the next 3 years in draft form, is coming back with very little funding available for those types of projects. So cost effectiveness, if it seems like we, for the past 30 years, maybe, we've been reaching for a grand solution to solve, everything that is incredibly expensive. But kind of sacrificing the adjustments that can be made relatively cost effectively, those intersection improvements, but things that don't require years and years and years of permitting, and don't require potential, funding that we have no idea if it will ever come. So as this planning progresses, it would be great to also just identify what are the short-term things that can be added to the existing 3-year work plan that can be done, and then actually get them done while also looking at those long-term solutions as well. And then the other thing that I feel, I live in North Scarborough, and have been quite involved, that is so important, is to make sure residents of South Point and North Scarborough are involved at a high level, as well as commuters that are going through there every day that really know the roadway well. We recently here in Scarborough, past several years have been working on a new school, and it was quite contentious. And it failed twice, I believe, at the polls, once, the advanced plan. And I was so impressed. What the town council did was form a resident committee that really worked like hand in hand with the consultants to, with diverse opinions, just getting everyone in the room to find a solution that could work for the town. And because it was such a resident-centered solution and just work on finding the right solution, it, I think I would describe overwhelmingly passed. And so a study like that isn't just a steering committee of 5, town officials, and then a public presentation, feedback type of format that I feel like most studies are, a study that really incorporates the vast, or just a good cohort of the community itself can do wonders to finding something that really works.
So 2 things I would say, I'll answer the last question first. That is our goal, in fact, to not just have the towns on a stakeholder group. I don't think that we're trying to reach past that. We have been asked about charrettes, the idea of doing maybe some town specific things. And I think we're work with our consultant on that to try to do that instead of having like these big, huge meetings across all these towns where people don't feel they can talk. So we've talked already about how do we give people an opportunity to speak without being in a room with 300 people. And, I've been involved in a lot of tough projects at the department. And sometimes, there's different strategies that we can have. We've actually been out on Machias Dike before with tables out there on the dike where people could go to each table outside and have kind of a private conversation with people and learn. So we've done a whole bunch of different things, and we're looking for that stakeholder group to help advise us on what works for these. But we're certainly willing to come in and have like community-based conversation. The other thing I would say to you is we've had a number of conversations with PACs about the funding. We are committed to working and collaborating with them moving forward. I will say, you said something that we've been trying to say, is that we can't always have these transformational projects that take 15 years to plan and cost $30 million. But you can do complete streets on heavy pavement treatments. You can do complete streets and do, we're all in on pilot projects. Go stripe something, put a skinny mix of pavement down, stripe it, see if it works. We've got stuff we'll lend you at the department to do pilots.
Waiting to hear back from regional.
Okay.
Those right now.
Okay, all right.
You.
All right, good. But I couldn't agree with you more. We can't just keep waiting. People are dying on our road system. 2025 may be one of the worst pedestrian years ever. We can't keep waiting. So I fully agree with you on that. And I think that's what we're trying to say is we're gonna not just go look at do nothing or a 4-lane highway. There's gonna be a whole smorgasbord in between of things that we're looking at because, affordability does matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, to me, financing is gonna be a super important factor as it relates into alternatives. So if we're relying on grants and that's not gonna happen, I would be curious as part of this project, how are you working with communities to figure out how we fund things together? Meaning like if we need to fix an intersection in Scarborough that is predominantly benefiting towns west of us.
Yeah.
How are they contributing to support that?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking too with LD 1829, coming where we're gonna see more growth likely westward as a result? Are they implementing impact fees specific to support this project so that they can contribute to the communities that are gonna be most impacted? So again, I think getting creative with communities on how we work together to
Yeah.
finance these things.
Yeah.
Because again, I think the concern for our residents would be if we're saying, well, we want to do a $2 million project here and there, but really the primary benefactors are going to be that traffic coming from outside. I would love to see those communities contribute somehow, either through impact fees or even through their own bonding. So that way, again, we're to Stanis's point, like people are like ready for this. The MTA took 38 years before they kind of stopped. And so I think everybody was waiting for that solution. And so again, like I said, people are ready to fix it. They just need good options that are congruent with the values of the communities that are going to be mostly impacted.
We actually asked, it's called MOCA, but Maine Office of Community Affairs, it's just been stood up to help us with some of the land use discussions, because we're not the experts. And
Yeah.
we're not gonna go in and say we're the experts on land use, and so I think we need to own what we're not,
Mhm.
and then get help with some of those conversations. And we're gonna learn from some of this ourselves, right? Because this is different, but we have been able, I think, over the years to have some really good outcomes on some projects that have been contentious, frankly, or have evolved, and try to turn it into really positive public involvement. And I think that what we're trying to say is we're not shying away from that.
Yeah.
And you can help steer us, right? If you think that that's what we need.
Yeah, no.
You add.
Well, no, I guess I just wanted to reiterate, we hear that point, and I think over the past 5 years, the department has gotten, the Bureau of Planning in particular, has really focused on community-driven solutions. So we want to hear and create good stakeholder groups, not just a steering committee, but get down to see what is the community's vision here? How can we help in partnership implement it? So I think that was one of the kind of frankly the exciting pieces of getting us involved, is that this is going to be a different approach than just a steering committee or board of somebody. It's going to be really getting down to hear concerns from various stakeholder groups, diversity of opinions, and to Joyce's point, we're not the expert in land use and housing, but we want to have those seats at the table to hear and make sure that we're doing this collaboratively. So it's great.
If I could, I would just say it's comforting to hear the process that you kind of laid out. It's much needed here, but I also want to make sure that we're not so naive to think that even incremental solutions will be unpopular.
Yeah.
We know that from the work we do daily. Whatever you're doing at an intersection, along a road section, is impacting someone's front yard or so. Just let's not have the illusion that it's all going to be slappings on that. Thank you. It's going to be prosthetic, I'm sure. To get to sort of
to that point, I think if it is the actual residents living there that are getting together and really working to design that solution, it can go so much better than when it's perceived as the Maine DOT decided this, the town decided this, and it's being forced on us. So that's really exciting. That's the type.
Yeah, and I think in the past, sometimes what we've done is invite public, but even do a site visit if it's safe, or try to get a smaller group and try to do something in that area so that it's not necessarily in the big room, and try to, Libby Town in Portland, when we were trying to figure out reimagining what that was gonna look like, we had I think it was 10 different groups that walked it. And we all kind of talked in our little group, and then we came back and talked together about what people wanted. And I think there's strategies. I don't think we're gonna run this like you described, that typical, okay, these 4 towns are in, everybody's in the back of the room, DOT sitting there, and that's not what we wanna do. I think there are a lot of people who want a chance to be heard that have not felt heard. And how we manage the talking, I think is part of what we gotta figure out, but this is really about giving people a chance to be heard.
And I think having this early conversation with the town, I think does a pretty good job about getting information out and trying to get these kind of public processes through our communication director. And that's why I think Stance and I have had a conversation about really kind of pulling in the North Scarborough residents, because I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
silent majority out there that was some that were very silent during the last process. That I feel like maybe working with the town, we can kind of try to get that word out, Stance, like you said, try to make sure everybody's kind of at the table.
Is there a meeting space out there? Like
They
Fire
have the fire station, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, the
probably a
Grange-
good meeting space
The
or?
range to.
The Grange Hall.
Going the Grange Hall.
But sometimes I think going to that area is really important, like, we didn't ask to do virtual, we came here tonight. Because I think it's important to our intent, and we can some, but yeah, definitely, that's really good feedback, and I think that's the kind of information we're looking for, so.
And we talked about that with DOT when we were talking about like say the Route 1 project, we're trying to think about the marsh crossing is that the town would be willing to kind of step up and do a lot of that public outreach and try to get the word out. And so this is another one like that. I feel like we could play
Yeah,
a role in that.
Yeah, I've been very involved in the marsh project, and we felt really strongly, you know, frankly, these adaptation projects are really get contentious and are hard to get through it. And so my lesson learned from years of working on some of this is let the town lead on some of this, and I think it's important for the town to know what does the town want to do. And so I think that's a great idea with meeting with people out there. I like that idea a lot.
I guess what I was referring to though more is that, and again, going back to the school process. It's more than just the kind of the public meeting, it's really getting residents deeply involved with the consultant and the main DOT to kind of work their way through. That's what seems so successful. If we just had a forum and everyone would have their own opinions and people would just kind of express stuff, and a lot of people don't really know any details. But when you get that group of residents together with different opinions on the same room, working with the consultants, going over line by line numbers and really diving deep, then you can have, I think, then there's so much more potential to really get a grassroots group together.
I think, just to build on that, like what I think made the school pass was it wasn't the town or the school board or anyone else selling it. It was really the community members who are part of that group really selling it within the community. And so, and even I think as we talked about it as like solution developed by your neighbors, not a solution developed by someone else. And even though MDOT may be the sponsor, the driver of it, I think there's power, especially ensuring that you have a good group of citizen voices who will say, I'm a Gorham resident, I love this and here's why. I'm a Scarborough resident, I love it and here's why. And I think that's why, like, I think that's what Stonis is getting at.
Yeah, I'm doing logistics in my head, because when you see deeply, I'm like, this is 14 months, I'm trying to figure out what that looks like, but I'm hearing you.
It's more of like a steering committee that's maybe has 20 residents and commuters, or maybe it's less than that. Maybe there's a magic number, but at least has a group that can dive deep and keep, giving kind of week by week, feedback on stuff.
Beyond the sort of gatherings and the process, the communication that this committee did following the in-depth gatherings and planning sessions was really, really good.
Good.
I have a neighbor who was very involved in it.
Okay.
I will ask her to talk to you because
Yeah.
they really, there was a lot of intense work by a very talented committee, but the follow-up and the pacing of the explanation and the updates was light years ahead of the attempt that was done 4 or 5 years ago. It was really excellent.
I'm hearing you. I think we need to talk to our consultant because I could see there being almost these groups that are I don't know what to call it, but I don't even wanna call it a subgroup, but focus group, maybe a focus group on a particular area. And that it is that North Scarborough area and somehow pulling that together. I mean, we have a team. We don't all have to be at every meeting, so I think we can, let us talk to the consultant and figure out how we can. Do something. In the meantime, if you have that written up somewhere, like with your consultant, a scope of what that looks like, it would be helpful to get that. I don't know if you have a description of it that's in writing or.
I don't think it was that.
It wasn't led by the consultants, right? Where the consultants.
We could maybe share the charge of the SBAC.
Yeah, it was truly grassroots.
Yeah.
And I,
Okay,
I get you the,
yeah,
I'm gonna call timeframe in which.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for.
still have a nervous twitch from being involved in that process.
Yeah.
It's really a committee that was formed to address the
Okay.
issue, given the charge of work together as residents, as stakeholders. With the consultants, because nobody was a school building expert,
Yeah.
but you bring in the consultant that is, and then you're working closely with them. It has a magical way of not just coming up with a great solution, but then making that solution happen because it's that grassroots community designed.
I think the key to success will be to identify those stakeholders, the
Yes.
ones that have the interest in
Yeah,
diving deep, the
yeah.
ones that have deep connections back in the community that they can take the solution back and educate the neighbors, right, in some level of credibility.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll say too, it's something we can discuss as
Yeah,
a
good,
committee,
Yeah.
but we have this committee to start with.
right,
And
right, there you
Forum
go.
has a comparable committee,
Yeah.
and so to the extent that it would be appropriate for this group, maybe it's not, I don't know, there's
Yeah,
probably
no,
a lot
it's
of
appropriate.
different.
I would
different
love for you
options,
guys
but-
to give us some ideas.
Yeah,
That's what we're looking
or even, we could maybe even, I'm really thinking on the fly here, but like, maybe we could devote a portion of this meeting over the next year to opening it up to some of those folks to come here, work through some of those issues, if
Yeah.
it's a particular intersection
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
yeah.
needing targeted input,
Ideally,
we
like,
could help
sure.
with that.
Scarborough, Gorham,
Yeah,
Westbrook, like not just, talking to the Gorham folks, talking to the Scarborough
Yeah.
folks. But really a committee that's formed that pulls a bunch of different stakeholders and voices.
Yeah, that's what
And,
that's the
and yeah,
plan.
works closely. That's how I think a study would have the best chance of success.
Yeah, no, that's our plan is, it's gotta look different.
And I'll just say the other key to success was, frankly, failing one time. The silver lining in the failure is that though there were diverse opinions, I think everyone came to that conversation understanding the need existed. I'm not sure that was the case before. So
Okay,
any major capital project ever done, you've got to make sure the need is understood and agreed on before you
Yeah.
make the cost.
that's that. I think one of the problems has been that I don't think everybody accepted what was put out there as existing conditions. And I think that's when the second slide, and I said we have to define. Okay, bear with me, define, what reduced mobility and congestion means. I mean, I think if not everybody agreed.
But even personalized it, I think a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
folks that were very actively involved in the North Connector in the end. Probably didn't have a personal experience sitting in that traffic in North Scarborough.
Yeah,
They were opposed and involved for other reasons perhaps. So
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
need, really appreciating what it really means to
yeah,
commuters and people that live along that corridor, it is an important part of at least the initial
yeah,
conversation.
I think so too, and. So I mean, we're gonna learn from people, we don't have all the answers, which is good, instead of someone wanting to do a full right now, they wouldn't find much, because we haven't. Done a lot, we're really waiting on our consultant to help us, and
Was there a consultant that has been identified?
we are in the process of scoring, and then we have to negotiate and go and be public about it. So that's why the February start, we gotta get through that process.
When you.
Was it a competitive bid? And were there
No,
multiple
It's
consultants?
not, we could do for consultants, a qualitative analysis, then we open up the bid and then we negotiate. So it's not a low bid.
But the public processes are RFP.
But yeah,
so anyone could
yeah.
bid on our
Yeah,
proposal.
yeah.
Were there multiple bidders? or
We
was-
can't
okay.
talk right
Yeah.
now. We have to be careful.
Engineering, you typically, you get qualifications and then you don't even consider price until
Yeah.
you select the best firm. So
Yeah.
that's typically how engineering
Yeah.
architecture is done.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what you
Yeah.
did here.
Yeah.
Question, when you're gonna go out to the communities, you're gonna go out after you've kind of evaluated any input that you know, any resources you have?
I think we're gonna go out earlier to start listening to people and to Stannis's point, like how to set this all up, like what are we missing? How people want this to work. And I think, but fairly early, like in the spring, we'll have to come in and start to share what the existing conditions are and where we're kind of looking at alternatives. What I don't wanna do is be quiet about the alternatives, show up at a meeting and have everyone go, you missed it, totally missed it, so.
And the reason I asked that is, I mean, we're not gonna be able to.
Right.
And I suspect if you go out to any group, like if West Scarborough, they have no idea what's going on over here. And the people over here have no idea what's going on out of County Road or anything like that. And in many cases, they don't even care if they don't go up there.
Yeah.
So as the experts, and also being aware of what's reasonable, what can be expected. Seems to me it might be a good idea to kind of make sure you can kind of frame it so people understand what's reasonable,
Yeah,
you know, and instead of pie in the sky and really saying everything.
And
that's a
I
good
would,
idea.
to that, I would just add, I think the other thing. School project did really well, that I'm assuming you guys will do to an extent, but maybe it needs to be bought in by the communities through which are gonna be impacted, was clear criteria for. How decisions were made when you look at alternatives, because if Scarborough has an overemphasis on conservation as like our top criteria, yet the solution is in conflict with it. Again, it would just be good to know and make sure that those citizens that are involved really support the decision-making criteria you guys are prioritizing. I think for the school, it was really cost, and we need to keep our neighborhood schools. We're kind of like the two things that I think were the constant North Star. So
Yeah,
what's the North Star for this?
Yeah.
And all of them will solve congestion, right, to some
Yeah.
extent, but like, what are the things that the surrounding communities agree are the top priorities that are gonna
Yeah.
help narrow down the alternatives to the best ones that the communities will support,
Yeah.
maybe not the best ones that get the best traffic result, but the one that we can live with.
I would say that the thing that's different about this project than the school project was where we wanted and where we were willing to pay for. We own that decision, all parts of it. Here, it's complicated by permitting, whatever we want, that's been permitted, someone has to pay for it. So there's a lot of other factors, that need to be an essential part of it. We come up with a plan that the group thinks is terrific, but if it can't get permitted, it can't get funded, what good is that?
And that's why the hand-in-hand consultant and community does so well, because the community can, you know, have something that isn't realistic that they all, you know, come to a consensus on. You really do need, of course, that consultant to be able to say.
It might be
these are-
interesting to start this with kind of a brainstorming session, and people that are not traffic engineers to say, hey, have you thought about this? And some of the
Yeah.
ideas will probably be crazy and non-executable, but might as well get them out there, and at least they've had a chance to float their
Yeah,
idea and been told why.
yeah.
It does make
I
sense.
think, that reminds me of the two, very public council meetings that we had where people were generally speaking in opposition to the Gorham Connector project, recognizing that that forum is, you know, a slice of the population, and that there are probably people who weren't there and voices weren't represented, but I attended both of those public meetings, which were lengthy, and people were limited to 3 minutes at a time, and it's hard, you know, there's no dialogue there, so it's just like their own statements, but even within that, I just thought there was so much creativity from the public and a lot of really thoughtful input beyond just like, this is a real problem that really, you guys should figure this out, you know, or this traffic is terrible.
But that, I didn't hear any of that conversation, we just whistled past it, everyone was, I think,
No, they were-
correctly commenting on the solution being
Yes,
proposed.
very focused
They weren't
on,
talking about the problem.
right, or very focused on different, like, some unity around not wanting a connector, but some creative ideas around like, what about this instead? Or I really wish I could jog safely on this part of the
Yeah.
road, or, you know, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a forum for, you know, more formally asking for that kind of, high level brainstorming from folks who are really familiar with the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're onto it. I think it's important in this case to let some of those ideas come out, because if they're in people's heads now, they're not coming out just because if we can't address them, right? And I think it's important to address things, and, you know, I've been involved in some projects, I won't talk about it, but where we were really struggling with the look of a bridge, really struggling. And someone threw out this idea, and it changed the whole dynamic of everything. Just went after that, because we came with an idea of how it matched into the community. And it was kind of a crazy idea, but I could tell you it got built the way that she proposed it, and it looks great. But the willingness to hear that, I can't promise right now to the in-depth that you're asking, because we have to go across all these communities and looking at our budget and time, but I am hearing you. I agree that there has to be a way to talk about this triangle in Scarborough separate from a big meeting. Like, there has to be some dedicated time in certain communities to understand their values, to understand their issues. And then we're gonna have to mesh everything, right? And I think we're gonna have to just explain, here are the different things we're trying to solve. And can we get there or not? Or do we get there partially? And I think if we can just, our job is to have meetings where people are willing to listen to each other. And that people have not already gotten so frustrated and upset that they've just given up and they're done. Right? We just have to somehow keep the dialogue going and figure out if we can get to some solutions. And I am here to tell you, we do not have a plan.
No.
That I can articulate to you this minute, and we don't have an outcome. Again, we have no outcome. I don't know what it's going to be,
Yeah.
and.
And I think I agree with you, and I think, we're just coming off of this recent project, and so
Yeah.
the way we did it isn't necessarily the way, but the spirit, I think, of what you're sharing is really appropriate and what we're hoping for. And I love Jen's comment of, how do we get the transportation committees aligned? And that's a good resource. And then
Yeah.
also, as we make progress, how do we make sure the council meetings become a forum for you guys
Yeah.
to give progress updates? So that way, again, across the communities, we're coordinating that to make sure we're bringing as many people along as we can, giving them ample opportunity to opine, but also have you guys be able to kind of explain why the decisions were made that were made. Because a lot of times people don't,
Yeah,
they just get the final decision and they don't wait. Not many people choose to be part of the decision-making process. They
Right.
get to wait until they have something to react to, and then that's when things can get somewhat contentious, because they are like, well, what about this? What about that? It's like, you guys thought about it and you evaluated it, and this is why you chose not to do that.
I will say, when the acting commissioner asked me if I would take the deputy commissioner position, I did say to him, if I'm doing this, is the answer cooked? Because if it is, I'm not taking the job. And he said, nope. And I said, okay. And, I joked with him, this might be like solving world peace, I'm not sure.
I think so.
And, but we have a small but mighty team. There's like 5 of us. And we are excited to work on this. We're having fun. We're enjoying our conversations. I've joked, I like a good contentious project. I've worked on a lot of them, and personally, I really enjoy the process of getting to a solution. I just enjoy listening to what people have to say and their crazy ideas, and I can jump on a crazy idea, though. That's one of my weaknesses. I can go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
but I like creativity that way, and I think our team is excited to build the communities, coming in with a positive attitude. We'll have to prove ourselves to people, and that's exciting to us, to try to prove that we're gonna be transparent and listen. So if we don't, we'll tell you why. If your hands, yeah.
Just really quick, I just want to reiterate too, it would be amazing to sort of have two tracks. One, just looking at like in the next 3 years, in the next, really just 3 years, how much money is actually available for MHDOT? And what are those like short-term things that we can do? And then, you know, also be thinking about the longer term
Yeah.
stuff that involves
Yeah.
the many permitting hurdles and everything else. But we just put a new smart light on 2 of the intersections in that triangle. And was what, $200,000 was paid for by the Downs EMP. And it's helped. Like it's such a small thing that probably was sort of ignored for many years, but can actually make, you know, maybe it's of course not 100%, but it might just be that 15% improvement that for the cost can be so effective.
I'll give you an example, Wiscasset, right, there was a talk about bypass for 30 years. And then Commissioner Bernhardt said, I'm done, we're gonna do something, and did a traffic study, we predicted it would make 30% improvement, and when you look at the numbers, it's like 32. I mean, I think we got a little lucky on that one, I'm not gonna lie, but it's better, it's not great, but it's better more days than it used to be.
Yeah, it's still the prettiest kind of paint.
So, I mean, it's still tough some days, but it's better, and I've got, people seem to have, we don't get the complaints we used to
I
get.
think it's 200% better. I don't think it's 30% better than it used to be, but
But that's
perception
one
could be.
where we said, we're just gonna do this, and then we'll see what happens.
That update already had opposition
Oh, yeah,
historically. I can't imagine anybody who was gonna say, I'm totally satisfied with the traffic around, me. I don't need to do anything, you know, I mean,
yeah,
I would think if.
there are some people, I've talked to them, but I think they're worried that if they're not saying that to us, we'll jump to the 4-lane highway.
Well, this is an opportunity for people to get involved.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something that just about everybody recognizes that is an issue.
Yeah.
And so.
I will say, over the years, I've worked with Tom and Angela on some projects. I think Scarborough was really a great town to have, but we've had a good relationship with Scarborough, so I have high hopes and can work with this.
One other thing I guess I kind of wanted to mention, I know a lot of the issues that people have get centered around the congestion and times when the cars are slow, but I also live in North Scarborough, and a lot of my biggest pain points are when cars are going fast. The other 22 hours a day. I would love to be able to go for a run or walk my dog without having to drive somewhere to do it. 114 right now is, you know, cars rip through, there's really no shoulder. So,
The best time to walk is when it's back to back traffic.
yeah, it is, it wanted to say and all that CO2. But, so yeah, I think just not neglecting the other, because
No,
it's really
yeah,
2 hours
Yeah.
a day when it's actually.
Yeah.
I drove 5:30 today, didn't have any issues. To Sonis's point, I think, maybe it's like once every week and a half, 2 weeks that I get caught in traffic now since the smart lights went in. It's been
oh, good,
pretty rare that,
So you have noticed the difference of those?
yeah, I think maybe the expense of his
Yeah.
side, but,
You don't have the third.
yeah. the
And I
22
think
side,
that-
You actually did a tweak.
Yes,
And
after we talked
I was
last.
gonna mention to you, now there's, again, no traffic on 22. But I was wondering if maybe 114 is backing up.
When
If it
did
is,
that happen? Because we did traffic counts up there, wondering if we missed it.
This past summer.
Okay, then we got.
no, it didn't activate though.
Oh,
till-
right.
Till like November 1st or
Okay, it
something.
was right before Thanksgiving we went on. But we should, this is good
It
to
was
know,
probably
I
right
guess we
before.
should.
But
But yeah,
it's also still in learning mode, so it's not.
Right.
No.
yeah.
Fully
And it's
I know what you
really
mean.
ideal to have obviously all 3 of those intersections, and so.
Yeah.
we're
And really,
ways too.
probably talking to Gorham too, to like to get the whole overlap, talking to each other and that's just that would be like a very, very like in the next year could be implemented and while we're working on
Yeah.
it.
But that was kind of our stopping point, we started with
Yeah.
having obviously that whole area as coordinated. Pull that out, not knowing what's happening. So to your point earlier is like, okay, can there be some short term? And then while we're looking at
Yeah.
long term,
Yeah.
the problem was that short term, we're prepared to put in that short term, the next piece, phase 2 adaptive traffic signal. But we want to put those mast arms in the wrong spot.
Right, betcha.
And so we've just
Yeah.
been on pause with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
until we know, is there gonna be major widenings, does that
Yeah.
intersection explode?
Yeah,
And those type of things, so there are some things that were ready, but
I have a love-hate relationship with those smart lights, just so you know.
I
When
think
they
I think
work,
everyone
they're
should have
terrific.
had the same experience. Tom, I know, has worked a lot on that, and it has been frustrating.
It's an obsession of mine.
I too, I drive Augusta and we have the smart lights connected and I'll be sitting there by myself going. So it drives me crazy, you know, Steve Landry, he's on my frequently call for this.
done in Public Works and he had to complain about every light, that was
Yeah.
before the adaptive
But there's a
system, I'm like,
lot-
it's coming, it's
I'd
coming.
imagine like
There's a-
with AI and technological
Yeah.
advances, it's only gonna get better.
Yeah, there is this kind of, I think, we need to take the next leap with technology, I don't think it's quite. But I do think it's gonna get there, and I think some of it's there now, so. I know we've been over our time.
Yeah, I know, I wanna make sure that we give
Yeah.
Mike a chance.
Yeah.
This sounds like a really non-traditional approach from my experience working with DOT in the past. I'm really pleased with that. Most of the time, these things, start with purpose and needs.
Yes,
And
yes.
that is all kind of setting up for the
Yeah.
inevitable alternatives analysis and
Yeah.
really preparing for the permitting. Can you envision that with
Yeah.
this?
Yes, we do, that's part of what we're waiting for the consultant to help us. I would say we were deliberately in our RFP approach, trying to get a consultant that wasn't necessarily engineering based, but was more it had a different approach to the public process, but yeah, we're waiting to have them help us with that.
Establishing that purpose and needs is a crucial part of this process, but it's also the first opportunity to really make sure we nail that and get
Yeah.
it right. So
I,
having our stakeholder group understood and assembled,
yeah,
part of that would be important.
Thank
And just last thing I want to offer Scarborough's services, most of the fixes are likely to happen within our boundaries, it seems, not all. So to the extent that we can be a convener to
okay, thank
provide
you.
space, communicate out
Thank you.
what you're doing. certainly
Thank
we're
you.
part.
Yeah, well, that was gonna be my question, like, what can we do to help you guys be successful?
I think one of the things you can do is, one of our plans is somehow to communicate on a regular basis, because one of the complaints that we heard about the connector was there were long periods of silence, and then all of a sudden something would pop out. Even if we don't have something necessarily to tell, we wanna communicate on a monthly basis, I think, or more frequent.
Yeah.
And for you to be willing to have those presentations, or even Angela or Tom giving you, hey, this is what they've said is going on. But having it said publicly and you being informed, and if there are trusts, and to help identify some of these people to be on the stakeholder groups as we come back to you and say, here's what they're gonna look like, here are the groups and we're putting together, who are those trusted members in your community that people will listen to, that would be willing to participate. So, and then as we need things, we'll let you know. But I think if you're hearing negativity about the process, please tell us, don't wait until it goes south, like, tell
Yeah.
us. Be honest with us about it.
I can add it to my manager's report, so I don't know, it's every other week, I think this is gonna be going on
Yeah.
at a pace, it's probably too
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah.
when something's worth reporting, I'll include it there.
I think too, even on the newsletter, if you guys have your own newsletter, there's a way to link what you're doing to what we send out to our community so that they can more easily access it through.
We'll have the website and
Yeah.
there's a QR code and we're gonna publicize our meetings. We're gonna try to have updates, and, just transparent as much as we can.
So I did provide with the agenda, your website information.
Okay,
So
great.
this group has already seen it and read it, but is that something you're asking the consultant to continually update or provide new content?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes,
Cause it is. yes,
one,
around-
either internal or consultant.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big part of what we're trying to do is over communicate.
The fact that you guys have taken this evening to come down here and speak to us as a community is so meaningful and a really great.
Good.
I'm so excited about it.
Good.
And I just want to be a part of it.
I'm
So
glad, thank you. Good,
Thank you too for coming. I know,
Sure.
today's been a difficult day for the department.
yeah,
So
thank
thanks for
you.
coming anyway.
Yeah, thanks for acknowledging.
Our condolences. to
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the
Your
commissioner,
large family.
yeah, they're all interconnected, but, actually Commissioner Dowdy was supposed to be, have his hearing today, nomination hearing, but he asked that it be postponed. Because, we have to take care of our employees first, yeah. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay.
I want to hear now. Wait, to hear what he says.
Great.
Angela, I think you need to plug in or else we're gonna lose Portia. Looks like you're at pretty low battery.
Oh.
So I don't want her to miss what I have to say, hopefully.
She's waiting. She's interested in music.
I have the low battery anxiety about others, so.
While we're working on that, for the purpose of the agenda, we'll move on, next to item number 4, which is an update, from Mike and Metro on public transit in Scarborough.
Great, thanks, Jen. And thanks again for having me at this committee. I was here in March of last year. I think most of you were also there. So I'm gonna move through these pretty quickly, but if you ever want me to slow down or stop to explain some of the how we got here steps, I'm happy to do so. Bit about Metro, we serve 8 communities, we serve 9 communities, being including Scarborough. We have 8 communities in our district that make up our board of directors and hire our executive director. And so hopefully in a few years, Scarborough will be one of those communities. Typically we have a little bit of an onboarding process before that happens, but this is our service area, and we are working on expanding that even beyond Scarborough. So pretty exciting time. We're to be expanding as a transit agency. A lot of transit agencies across the country are doing the opposite. So we're grateful for all of our communities and DOT for helping us do that. A bit of an overview of Scarborough's transit system, primarily served by B-Suits Route 60. A little bit of our Route 24 A and B serve that Scarborough Walmart Gallery Boulevard area. But aside from these 2 services, there's relatively light coverage of transit here. And that's more zoom in of what I just mentioned. Exciting news in October, as I'm sure everyone's here heard, we secured all the funding we need to actually launch a new service here this year. Thanks to Maine DOT and MTA's commitment of funding. We had already had Scarborough's commitment last spring, and we worked through the PACS process to get the federal funding we need for that startup. The PACS has a set aside process to expand transit in the region, and so we got a 1-year federal funding stipend to launch the service this year. So we are, in terms of funding, which is one of the biggest hurdles, ready to go in spring and summer of this year. We did just do some public outreach that is more or less still ongoing, but the biggest steps in terms of public meetings and online surveys occurred at the tail end of last year. A bit of an overview of that process. We had public meetings. Backing up a little bit, we combined the Scarborough route planning process a little bit with the South Portland reimagining process, because obviously we don't want to consider transit as municipal boundaries only. We're all a big network, and so we wanted to consider how we might improve South Portland service, which we kind of took over from South Portland after 40 years of them not doing a whole lot to their bus routes. We want to consider that in combination with Scarborough service, and so rather than doing separate processes in each community, we try to combine those as best as we can. But we did have a public meeting in Scarborough and in South Portland separately, as well as an online meeting. We got over 300 responses to our survey, and I believe about more than half of those were specific to Scarborough. So really good amount of responses here and a lot of good feedback. Bit of the Scarborough specific feedback. A lot of folks want to use they travel for shopping, social activities, health services, and work. some of the destinations and origins that people identified: Hannaford, the beaches, Maine Health, Costco, Route 1. And then if you're looking at priority for a new service, most folks want to be dropped off close to the destination. Frequent service, long hours of service, kind of shown in that graph there. These are all related in kind of a push and pull way, right? If you create a network that everybody gets dropped off at their front door, that service isn't going to be very frequent because that bus is spending more time hitting every destination along the way. So it's important to know that people want to be dropped off close to home. We think we have a solution to that, while also keeping the fixed route service pretty direct. For people that answered the survey, about 80% were likely or very likely to use the service. Again, it's a little bit self-selecting. You're not going to take a survey about transit if you're not interested at all. But obviously, pretty good amount of folks said they were going to actually use the service, which means that the survey responses are probably pretty useful. And then for those who don't drive at all, almost everyone said they would use this service. And then what would encourage you to use the service? So direct routes to Portland and South Portland, frequent service, convenience stop locations, a lot of the same information as that last graph. Beach service, I included this because this is probably one of the more controversial things about providing new transit in Scarborough is, will it go to the beach? There's a lot of people that really want to go to the beach, especially, originating outside of Scarborough. But I think some of the folks that live in Scarborough are a little bit more protective about that resource, making sure that they don't want busloads of folks getting off at Higgins Beach and crowding it up and causing some environmental concerns with litter and whatnot. So we don't have to decide that today. I think it's a microtransit solution, which is a lot more nimble than a fixed route service. But that's something that we'll continue to have dialogue with the town about. Do we have that transit service extend all the way to the beaches, or maybe it's just one of them going forward? So this plan has always kind of had a two-pronged approach: a fixed route service that would provide direct access to and from Portland, but also a microtransit service, which I'll get into a little bit. Focusing on the fixed route first, we kind of knew through conversations with Maine DOT, with Maine Turnpike, we're both funding partners with the town of Scarborough, that this service would focus on the Route 1 corridor and to run directly to downtown Portland. We knew that a lot of the folks coming from Scarborough would want to have a destination in downtown Portland. There's always a possibility that there could be a crosstown route to go to Westbrook or connect to the Route 3 that already goes to Westbrook. And maybe that's a future solution, but for the first application of a more frequent transit service, I think that direct connection to downtown Portland was pretty critical. We also wanted to make sure we served the Maine Health campus more frequently. Right now, that Route 60 service comes every 2.5 hours. If you're using that to get to a medical appointment, that's your whole day, right? You're spending a whole day getting to and from that appointment. We wanted to try and get the VA outpatient clinic on West Commercial Street in Portland. Right now, there's no transit service there at all. Obviously, a big population of need there. And then obviously pick up as many other people along the way. And so obviously areas that are dense, have riderships, have big destinations, they're going to generate more ridership. And, for the town, more ridership means less money that the town has to pay directly for the service in the end. That fare revenue helps to offset directly the town's contribution in the future. So getting that ridership is really important. We have funding to run 2 buses more or less throughout the day. There might be less service on weekends or nights, but throughout the day, 2 buses back and forth. That's generally how much it could, when you boil it down to how much it costs to pay operators, maintain buses, fuel, all that other stuff. It's a simplified way of explaining how many resources we can devote to this service. And that's important because with 2 buses, if you make the route really long, if you run it all the way to the Saco border, well, then it's going to take an hour and a half to make a round trip, or 2 hours to make a round trip. But if you keep it more condensed, more direct, you can make the bus make more round trips throughout the day. So we tend to try and make buses as direct as possible, considering we don't have as many resources as larger transit agencies. And for hours of operation, we want to start off with a robust hours of operation. Our typical service is 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. plus or minus a half hour on either end. We want to do that here in Scarborough. And then typically on Sundays, we run a little bit shorter, 8 p.m. to 6 p.m., 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or so. And we tend to adjust those based on demand. If really no one's in the bus after 9 p.m., we might look at cutting that back. But often that nighttime service and that weekend service is kind of a loss leader, right? It gives you that sense of security that if I don't buy a second car, if I don't have a car at all, I might not use that bus every day, but if I need to get home at 9 p.m., it's there. And so not having that that security blanket can be a way to lose ridership even during your peak periods. And so that's why we provide that span of service. And then not to fear if our fixed route service doesn't go where everyone wants to be, we have this microtransit option to provide that last mile connection. So I'll get into that in a bit. This is the map we showed Tom and then town staff a couple months ago now. Sort of the concept of where the route might go. So again, the Route 1 corridor, the map is angled slightly so that Portland is in the top right, the old port area. And then we're right where the Scarborough label is. And so we pretty much know that the primary route will be on that solid blue line. But then where we still have decisions to make are those dashed lines on either end. To the south, does it go to Dunstan Corner? Does it go to Costco area? Does it go to the Park and Ride? And then on the Portland side, how exactly does it get to our downtown hub? I would love to get service on Commercial Street in Portland someday, but there's a lot of infrastructure that has to happen for that to work. Not to mention, we talk about traffic problems. You want this bus to be fast, and if it's gummed up in tourist traffic in July and August and in September, it's not going to be fast. It's not going to be on time in Scarborough, right? So it's important to make sure that it serves a lot of people in Portland, but also gets out as quickly as possible. So we haven't set anything in stone yet, but right now where we're leaning is the option that kind of gets in and out of Portland as quickly as possible via State and High Street, and in the future, probably just one of those once they make those streets two-way. And then on the Scarborough side, we're looking at serving the Downs and then cutting over to Haggis Parkway to get access to the Park and Ride. And we're in talks with Cabela's about having a stop right in front of Cabela's. There's a lot of survey responses that said that that's a big destination for them. We also have a need for a kind of end-of-line restroom facility. And so if we can work out a deal with them to park there for 10 minutes at a time, allow our drivers to use the restroom there, then that kind of works out for everybody. So again, this isn't set in stone. We still have to comb through that survey response a bit more, design the schedule to make sure it works throughout the day. But this is more or less what we're considering at this point going forward.
Is that the hospital, the squiggly line?
Yes, the main health facility. This is what the Route 60 does today. It's really tough to serve the hospital on Route 1. There's not a lot of pedestrian facilities there. And so we're probably going into campus. Well, if it does, then that could be a solution, right? If this is what the Route 60 does today with all those squigglies going in and out of driveways, we might try and find a way to make it more direct, have one or two primary stops that don't involve so many turns. But if you've been to that campus, there's not a whole lot direct ways through there. So the other thing to point out there is that campus is a Monday through Friday facility, daytime only. And so when they're not open, a couple hours after they're not open anymore, we're pretty sure we picked up all the employees. We just won't go in there at all. Bit faster, and so we can get some efficiencies by not going through there and wasting spending 5 minutes on a place that we know we won't be picking anybody up. So those kind of nuances in the schedule, similar with the Park and Ride, right? If we're if it's Sunday afternoon, maybe the Park and Ride isn't a worthwhile place to go, and we can kind of cut the route short. Those are all things, nuances to the schedule we can figure out going forward. Some needed improvements, some of these are short term and some of these are longer term. We talked about big capital projects. Some of these are, 5-10 year look ahead projects probably in the grand scheme, but some of the bus stops in Route 1 need to be improved. The Route 60 uses them today, but in a lot of cases, there's no landing area. They're not near a crosswalk, which is pretty critical for a bus stop. No matter what, someone's crossing the street on one leg of their trip. So you need to be able to have bus stops close to crosswalks, especially on a road like Route 1, 5 lanes in most cases. There's a couple of locations, I guess, between Oak Hill and the main health facility where, there's just no crosswalks at all. And so that can be really, you talk about pedestrian safety, you really just don't want people crossing the street with no crosswalks. And then continuous sidewalks along the whole road, just to provide that connection to the bus stop. Even if you're, if there's a crosswalk nearby, that's great. But if there's no way to get to the bus stop from there, that's a problem. So some of these things we're working with the Downs to address in the short term, and as well as we have a bit of DOT, I believe, provided some capital funding for the first year to improve some bus stops. But we'll have to chip away at these going forward into the next few years. I can pause here on fixed route, or I can continue and talk at the end. I don't know if anybody has a preference.
My question for this is, so we do this. How are we measuring success to know whether it's working and that's what I make?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years for the ridership to materialize. That's why we typically have, we're not asking Scarborough to join the district right away, which is, you get into our funding formula and you start to take on the debt that we need to take on for building new facilities and things like that. That doesn't typically happen until that kind of proved down through the wait 3 years for you to act before we ask to make that commitment for the town. But certainly we will be asking for sort of a contribution that would help offset the local share of this route. And so, yeah, we typically, obviously we hoped to see it pick up ridership very quickly. It's the first, there is transit here, but I think it's a significant improvement. And we hope to see steady improvement in ridership, and we can provide kind of trend lines for when we launch the Route 3 and Husky Line service, which is a little different because of the student ridership there, but also the Breeze service, which was a brand new route that launched in 2017 timeframe. So, in terms of how quickly ridership grew to its kind of peak amount. So, yeah, that's what we look at is the historic volume there. Yes.
I guess with the Downs, it's interesting because it has the density that Scarborough doesn't have anywhere else. And, it seems like Portland is the destination for most, but I think the Downs has the opportunity to be the destination for people from Portland as well. And I know it has Costco now, and I don't know the specific timeline as far as when, restaurants and shops are going to be open at the Downs. But I think at that point, it would be more beneficial to have a ridership as, both a starting point and a destination. So, I mean, I'd hate to see it just not materialize and then bars and restaurants open up and then, people from Portland that don't want to drive to Scarborough can, don't have the ability to drive.
Yeah, we know that, the good thing about getting there before a lot of the stuff opens there is that, when folks are applying for jobs at Market Basket, which is a new opening in November, I think, the bus will already be there, right? So, it'll help you get to your job interview, but it's also, the management at that Market Basket can tell, the 16-year-old that's applying for work there, because Market Basket is one of those places that the kids tend to work at, that there is a bus that comes here every 45 minutes or so. And then, yeah, I think that 3-year time frame is, I don't know if it's a full build out but I think it's several phases of that build out. And so hopefully we'll continue to see ridership climb in the Downs. And I think the Downs is a huge opportunity for folks to move there and be car light, right? Maybe not car free, but car light, one car family. And maybe in some cases, no cars, but if there's that, dedicated service, the bus stop right outside your, short walk down your street, then why not, right? So, but yeah, I do think this has a lot of potential for, not just commuting patterns, everybody's going northbound in the morning and southbound in the evening, but a lot of trips in both directions, which is what you want. Yeah.
What are your thoughts around, so one of the conversations having with the Downs, which I think they're resistant to right now, but I know that you have a hub in South Portland. Which seems like a great part of that downtown kind of community feel. It's right there near City Hall and stuff like that. And do you see an opportunity where that cross connection, even connecting to other, was it Pisu and things like that? Is that, you see a need in the future if once this does take off, so I guess I want to start planning around that so we don't paint ourselves into a corner.
Yeah, there's certainly, we consider that kind of like a larger bus stop improvement, right? It's a larger facility. Ultimately, it's a big bus shelter with doors. And, so, I do think there's a need for that pretty quickly here because as we get into the microtransit discussion, eventually, pretty quickly, we're gonna be asking folks to get off the microtransit vehicle and get on the fixed route. And if you're doing that on the side of Route 1, I'm not sure that's an attractive trip, right? So, or if folks are getting off the Bisu bus from Biddeford and they want to go to, direct to downtown Portland and not do the meandering trip that they do now. Or perhaps in the future, there's that Route 60 does something different. That certainly would need a transfer hub to in order to enable that so that folks from Biddeford and Saco can get onto our bus.
And maybe I missed it. What do you have an estimate on what that timing would be to get, say, from downtown Portland to the park and ride?
The full trip is looking like 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so with 2 buses, making the round trips, you know, an hour and a half round trip, that's 45-minute frequency. It might be a little faster in the evening, but we also might step back on the number of buses at a certain time so that we can save a little bit of money there. But that's looking like what the schedule is right now. Obviously, we won't know for sure until we start running the service, and summer might be a little slower than winter, but yeah, ultimately 45 is, I think, where we're gonna end up. And the good thing about a 45-minute frequency is if we're able to add a bit more resources and add another bus to the route, then you get to an even 30 minutes. And then, you know, you can do the math from there. But yeah, that's.
And I guess I'm still a little questioning or confused on the overlap with BSU.
Yeah.
So you said they're Route 60 or, and is it just because you had mentioned 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
It's just because it is so infrequent that it really doesn't play into the fact that you're laying this other fixed service on top of it?
Yeah, I mean, at 2.5 hour headway,
Right.
it's making a slow trip from Biddeford, it's making a lot of stops along the way, it's going to the main mall on the way to Portland, which is a big deviation. And so, yeah, you can use it and people do, but you have to plan your whole day around that trip because the next bus isn't coming for another 2.5 hours. And so, yeah, if you have a doctor's appointment or something and you're not gonna be able to make your usual, say, 8 a.m. bus, well, now you gotta get a ride to work because you're not gonna get into work until 10:30 or whatever. So that level of headway is super important for that flexibility. You know, people drive because I can get in my car and I can get, you know, no matter how many errands I have to do along the way, I'll get to work. It's reliable for the most part. And so, and you know, cities that have fantastic transit, you don't even look at a schedule, right? The bus just comes every 10 minutes or 8 minutes. And so if you do get delayed because, you know, something happened at home and you have to wait for the next bus, it's just, I'll get the 9:08 bus instead of the 9 o'clock bus. So.
And I was pretty impressed, because my kids are at school in Rhode Island and the bus comes every 15 minutes and that is such a rural area. And it's a huge success, but I'm sure it needs a lot of subsidies and try to get that
Sure,
running.
yeah,
But
they're funding.
But when you know it's coming every 15
Yeah.
minutes, it's
And
super.
15 is right where you can start to put on the schedule, it comes every 15 minutes. You don't even have to put that
Right.
actual time point.
So I'm just curious, like, as this rolls out, do we as a town have good visibility to where along the route there are options for people to park their cars or something, so that way, again, like I'm thinking of myself, I live off of Maple Avenue down Route 1. And so I'm probably, I guess if I walk to Green Acres or down Green Acres to get there, I probably could get to a bus pretty quickly. If it's right
You
there.
would drive your car.
No, I would.
That's a great, hang on, I think that's a great
But that is-
segue to my next topic of
I got a
conversation.
quick question before you actually go there. It's about the route.
Yeah.
One, I think the innovation district, what kind of Craig was talking about, is an important area to cover. Is there a way to actually do a loop so that you're hitting both within the Downs, you're hitting both the innovation district, coming over to Payne Road, then to Cabela's, then down Hydas, and then back over?
We'd like to avoid loops like that because in order to, the short answer is yes, we could do that, right? The reason not to is because there typically will be for a 45-minute loop, for a 45-minute headway. You'd need at least a 5-minute layover at the end of the line, maybe 10, depending on other factors. And so if you say live in Scarborough, live in the Downs, and you want to go to Portland and you're getting on the bus, well, you can only go in one direction unless you're walking over to Enterprise Drive. I'm sorry, I don't know my geography too well. So when you have a loop, you're forcing folks to sit through the layover, right? So it's an extra 10 minutes and maybe longer, right? So we like to avoid that if at all possible. Obviously, there's a little bit of looping activity happening in the Portland side, and part of that is because there's one-way streets out here. So I won't take it off the table. If there's ridership there, or if there's a lot of utility there, we can consider it. But we tend to try and design loops with bus stops in both directions and avoid that looping activity if possible.
Another thing, if BSoup, is that how you say it? If they're still continuing their service and reference that they go to the mall.
Yeah.
Is there collaboration between Metro and BSoup so that maybe BSoup's route, because Metro now covers that Route 1 corridor, would go up Payne Road and have a shorter, direction to the mall, and could actually supplement that Payne Road corridor so that there still could be bus service there?
We're we've started the conversation with BUSU about, and then their game to optimize the Route 60. They don't love that route either, right? So they're game to consider options for the Route 60. There's some funding implications with the PACS federal funding allocation, which I won't get into. Basically, you get funding if you hit more population and more density, and so coming off of Route 1 might cause them to lose funding. So I won't speak for them, but they're certainly going to try something else with this route. And so I think
Alternatively, could a current metro line like the one that's hitting Walmart right now, extend to the parking lot as well,
I
or
think-
to the
yeah.
town?
it probably won't happen this year based on our funding models, but I think that's a natural extension of a Route 3. To bring it, continue it, right now it turns around at the mall, but if you continue it, and that's the one that goes into Westbrook, the crosstown route, but I think that should come down and kind of be it's kind of the urban ring, if you will, that connects the end of the line for all these different routes, and so that's something on our radar. The 3 needs some improvement anyway, but yeah, I think that all those things on the table for sure, yeah.
So you said the route that you're recommending is the finalized ship. When will you plan to finalize it and actually, when will we announce it to the broader public?
I think we need to have more conversations with Tom and the town staff, but I think we're close.
So I moved him up because we have a very busy agenda for February, and I know that the meeting dates get a little messed up. But I thought it was important to kind of give us an update, and that's not the first time you're seeing it. When he rolls out, here's the plan, so we can get some feedback.
I think we're penciled in for a March meeting, not
Yep.
here for council, right? Or for here.
I had asked you, he was supposed to discuss with council leadership, to see what.
We talked about leadership tomorrow to identify a council workshop
Yeah.
where we expect. We'll have
Yeah. Right.
So
And we'll probably meet with staff ahead of that, but.
Yeah.
Because there's also, the town contributed for this initial funding for this half year of service, but we're gonna have to come back and ask for the full year of funding for next fiscal year. So there's always an ask there, so. Yeah, but we'll have our homework, we'll have all of our, the full summary of the public feedback to kind of ensure that we're doing the right thing with the route, and at that point, we'll be, designing schedules and starting to put things out there. Getting into microtransit, which I think was another kind of a point of interest for a lot of folks here. I won't get into, again, we'll spend a ton of time on these, but essentially demand response service, you can call it with an app or website, but you can also call us on the phone and book rides that way. And the great thing about this is that it's not on a set route, so we can get picked up closer to home. The way we had it set up in Falmouth is if you had to walk more than 3 minutes, then call me and I'll fix that for you, because we have these virtual bus stops, meetup points essentially at street corners or driveways, as opposed to having you have to, walk 10 or 15 minutes to a bus stop on Route 1. So, the idea is that these are integrated with fixed route services. People use the service to connect to the fixed route, but obviously, if there's a trip that works for you that's within the zone, such as, to your house, from your house to the library or to Hannaford, then that's certainly allowed as well. And I think that was one of the surprises we had in Falmouth. We assumed everyone would use it to get to the Route 7 bus service, but a lot of folks are just using it to get to Walmart or to go to a lot of middle school students using it to get to school. So all the above is allowed and certainly encouraged. And so that's something that is a bit different from every street service. And as I mentioned, it's a virtual stop system, so we don't stop it. We don't pull up to your driveway necessarily and pick you up at your house. We do expect a little bit of a walk, and it's not ADA paratransit where they'll help you out of your house and all that. It's still a bus experience. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but again, walking distance should be minimal, and for the most part, if you should not be expected to walk on a dangerous road with no shoulder or whatnot. If the vehicle helps do all that hard work for you. So I'll also note that all the vehicles are ADA compliant, they have ramps, they have wheelchair securements and things like that. So getting into what the service might look like, again, the goal would be to provide that first mile, last mile connection. I stepped on this slide, I'm sorry. The question of this is how you might be able to provide seasonal beach service, I think, because that fixed route service isn't going to come all the way down into the beach neighborhoods, but perhaps this vehicle could. And maybe it's only on weekends or what have you, but we could figure out a way to do that or trial it out for a few months this summer. And if it goes terribly, we can adjust. It's pretty nimble that way. And then finally, it's just the great way to serve areas that either are not or cannot be served by fixed route because the road network is too tight or because the roads just aren't appropriate for big buses. These are 10-passenger vehicles, right? So they're not big giant buses. They're generally the size of kind of like the service van that might come to your house to fix the plumbing, that kind of thing. So
Do you ever find in Falmouth, for instance, you're at capacity, you're more than 10?
there are some times we have groups that want to ride it, right? So there's like the times we come up to that is because there's been groups of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What's that? No, it's typically students leaving school at the same time. They all want to go to the same place. So it's like, that's fine. You gotta book your ride normally. What will happen is one group will be asked to wait 20 minutes because the vehicle's going back and forth. I will say that we are planning, at least during peak periods, to have 2 vehicles on the road in Scarborough. So essentially you double your capacity, but also if there is that kind of activity, where there's a little big, a couple big groups traveling around, there's more flexibility in the service that the next person doesn't have to wait 40 minutes because there's another vehicle out there.
I'm just curious where the middle schoolers going.
Starbucks typically, yeah, no, so Falmouth, if you're not from it, Falmouth has the school campus in the middle, smack in the middle of the town, but everything worth going. Everything else, most other things worth going to are on either Route 1 corridor or in the Falmouth Crossing area on the west side of town, so it's really not a walkable location. The school campus isn't a walkable location, so it's a pretty good connection to that.
And then do they call to go somewhere else after Starbucks?
Usually a friend's house, yeah, so, yeah. I can see a lot of data with this, much more than I can see with fixed route, up to the exact name of the people traveling, which is a little bit weird, but, no, it's interesting to see how people use it. And it helps us, both plan our engagement, hey, people are using it this way, you should too, but hey, I heard you're using it already. Have you considered using it to go to the movies or whatever? So
Can you remind me what the fee is for the fixed?
yes, so right now it's the same as our $2 per trip per person for a full fare rider. If you're under 18 or you're over 65 or you're a veteran or you're disabled, then it's half fare. Now, yeah.
Is there a
Now,
monthly option or is it all paid per guest?
I'm sorry?
Is there like a monthly option or?
We have a fare payment app called the Deergo app, and BSoup uses this as well. It uses fare capping, so instead of having to pay up front, once you pay a certain amount in a calendar month, it stops charging you. I will caveat all this is that kind of parallel to this process, we're analyzing our fare policies. We haven't done this since 2020, and it's time to do it again. So there's a chance that fares might go up this year. However, we're hoping to also kind of coincide that with kind of incentives to ride more. So that fare cap might stay the same or only go up by a little bit, even if our fare goes up. And so, yeah, you might pay more if you're a tourist riding once or twice, but hopefully if you're riding every day, capping out every day, you're not going to see much of any fare increase. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a parallel process to this.
So you guys use the same kind of system, because I know BSoup is doing a big push with our age-friendly group. And they've done their ride-alongs and they've helped them through kind of like the app or payments process. So that would be, sounds like.
Totally familiar, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good.
And even better,
They just did this as soon as, since I think it was last month, they
Yeah.
did this whole like push out. So just curious if that's something you guys
Yeah,
do.
we work with them a lot on,
Yeah.
we work on them, getting them tokens to, free ride, rides for folks and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're all in the same system, and, some great news this year is that assuming we can get the stars to align with the technology and the financial systems, open fare payment with credit cards should be coming again around the same time. So you don't even have to have the app or the card, you can just tap your credit card.
Will that still impact the fare capping or will we?
So we have a consultant that we just interviewed for this week. It's kind of a theme with DOT that will help us figure that out. We do want there to be some incentives to continue to use the Deergo card if you ride a lot. Because there'll be credit card fees associated with the open fare payment. So if the regular riders continue to keep doing what they're doing, that would be great. But in terms of if you're riding with a visitor, then hey, just tap your credit card, so, yeah. So, getting into the potential zone, this is even more drafty than the fixed route, especially a lot more drafty than the fixed route because it's so nimble. But the red area is more or less what we're considering for the microtransit zone. Based on our feedback from the last meeting, last time I was here in March of 2025, kind of use the I-95 corridor as the kind of westerly cut off there, but certainly we could venture further west there. And then I can't remember the name of the streets down there, but Pleasant Hill being the boundary to the south, and obviously avoiding the marshlands there. And then there might also be potential that the zone expands west, probably next year, 2027, into South Portland, and that would all be kind of interconnected. So somebody could get on Scarborough and get off at at the mall or in the Willow Beach area. So
At the airport, who would take it to?
we have some ideas for the airport that there might be some sort of a mall area loop. It's still part of our South Portland process that will hopefully be implemented by the end of this year. But yeah, we want to improve the access to the airport because the Route 7 does a good job if you're coming from Portland. It's hard to get up there from the south. So certainly you can take this route in, transfer to the Route 7 and get to the airport that way, but there might be a faster way once it's all said and done.
The southern, roughly the southern boundaries of it.
I use the Saco Town line, so we don't have to go
I
that
say
way.
southern.
Sorry, this is pretty rough. There's I don't have the street names on here, but there's
It's
a,
like Highland, Chamberlain.
yeah, there's a Pleasant Hill label right here, and again, certainly we can go further south and east.
Including the whole Pleasant Hill area, I think there's enough density there.
Yeah, certainly.
Would make sense with it, or be struggling.
Yeah, the exact lines here,
Fog.
totally up for revision, so.
But that's pretty cool to say that half of the residents would have access to microtransit service just with the map you have.
Right. and I think-
I do always worry that we always hear West and North Scarborough always feel like they're left out of things like this, so I don't know if there's a way to kind of create some access for them, or maybe that is phase 2, but I just hate the notion.
There's some parallels to the main DOT study, which we'll probably look at in that transit to Southport, North Scarborough, Buxton, Standish, that whole area.
Yeah. And I wanted to be clear too, that it's really important to start small and expand as opposed to start too big and have to contract, right? The last thing you want to do is say, we're gonna cover the whole town.
Yeah.
And then everyone, if the wait times are terrible, people just get turned off, they're never gonna use it again. And then you have to contract anyway, and then the people that are relying on it suddenly don't have the option anymore. So in Falmouth, I think we did pretty well with this. We started out pretty compact and expanded, and now we cover most of the town, and I think we're pretty happy where we are. And obviously you can expand if you decide to do, instead of 2 vehicles most of the day, you might go 3 vehicles most of the day in the future. And then cover the whole town that way. So
The other option too is that you're still showing, including, potentially, depending on the route, the park and ride at, Fellas, which, while it's not the same as a short walk from your house, if you're in West Scarborough, you could drive to there and then maybe get directly on the fixed route,
Right.
to eliminate
And I know it was asked earlier, and we kind of transitioned, but the sustainability committee is very interested about having parking along, well, I specifically the fixed route, but I know we transitioned, you said you were gonna talk about it here, so if I'm jumping ahead. Let me
No,
know, but that is
my-
gonna be coming up at public
Yeah,
comments, sure.
certainly Metro doesn't operate any parking lots, so that if
Yeah.
there's any locations that wanna say you can park and ride here, that's certainly acceptable, including maybe even this location. I don't want to speak for the parking supply here, but the idea with this is that you should not need to park and ride at an intermediate stop like this. You should be able to use the service to connect to a bus stop directly. Or as Jen mentioned, if you really do need to park and ride, then you could use it to connect to the exit 45 and 44 or 45. 43?
In theory,
42.
if you're in the red, you don't wanna drive to get to the park and ride, you can
Yeah.
use the
You
micro.
can use the microtransit service, it'll tell you where to get off, and the vehicle will pick you up. The other thing I'll note here is that you might notice that while this whole zone is covering the entire fixed route service, why wouldn't I just use microtransit for everything? Our software can basically, there's anti-cannibalization, it's a weird term for it, but it'll make sure that, if it's, unless it's like, pick a benchmark, 25% faster to use microtransit, it will direct you to use the fixed route. And so they will make sure that vehicle is more available for folks going across the zone as opposed to mimicking the fixed route sort of order.
So if I live where that black circle is to the far right.
Yep.
And I wanna go to Dunstan Tap and Table, which is all the way down the left. I take the
Hypothetically.
microtransit to get there.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, we love going. So we're like, go there, have drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we try not to like encourage people to use this as a drunk bus, but obviously. Honestly, though, like talk about public safety, if you want people to patronize certain businesses and, you know, patronize them 2 or 3 times in a night, then you don't want people driving. So this could be a great way to help people encourage that. And I think I have a slide on this. So we want to mimic, closely match, maybe not exactly match, but closely match the fixed route service so that we're not turning this off at 6 p.m. Right? It's something that it's a valuable transit asset to the community, and so we want to match that those hours as much as possible, unless we run it out there and just really no one's using it after a certain time. And that's what we found in Falmouth is the Sunday ridership is pretty low, and so we're actually going to pull back on Sunday service this February in Falmouth, and we'll see how that is received. But generally, we're just seeing that things step off pretty significantly on Sunday. So I'm going to propose that we launch 7 days a week here and see how things go. But obviously, we're willing to make changes to save everybody some money if we need
In the
to.
later evening hours, Paige think, I mean, there's not much,
Right.
no place to go after 9.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But,
yeah.
like, if you live in Pleasant Hill and you wanna go to downtown Portland.
Yeah.
It's all integrated, right? So you would plug in.
Yeah.
The app and microtransit would bring you to the fixed route,
Yeah.
the closest fixed route
Yeah.
stop, which would then take you to Portland. So you could, with that microtransit, have a lot of outside of Scarborough travel accessible.
Right, and on the flip side, right, if you're trying to get home at 9:30 and we shut this thing off at 6 o'clock, and now you don't have your last mile option anymore. So there's again, the ridership might not be sky high between 6 and 10, but if 1 or 2 people use it, now you know those 1 or 2 people might not drive their car at all anymore, right? So it's important to provide those.
No, at least you're gonna have the kind of mirror the same hours. I'll just be curious to see what that ridership is at night.
Yeah.
So much to me depends on outreach and people knowing how this works and you know, trying it out and what approach do you take and how can the town assess in making sure every resident of Scarborough knows about this?
We love to do work, learn to ride events. We'll likely launch it fare free for a month or 2, just to make sure that's not a barrier, right? If I have to figure out where this thing goes and I have to figure out how to pay for it, well, that might just be one step too far. But if you can just use it and jump on, that can be all you need. And so in Falmouth, we went to the Ocean View assisted living facility and just kind of did a talk like this. Here's how it works. Here's where you book your ride. Let's take a trip right now, right? Like just handheld them the whole way. I think that's been moderately successful. I think that, you know, that community is, you know, there's a lot of other alternatives for folks to get around. So, but so going to people and showing them how to use it is invaluable in that kind of face-to-face interaction. Obviously, the vehicle itself is especially branded and all that, and so people see it driving around. I think the best thing you can do is basically show them how to use it, and we'll do some direct outreach down
Sounds
here.
like the school system.
Absolutely, yeah. Seniors in schools, right? Those are easy and yeah.
So are you guys planning to coordinate with the schools before this launches to make sure people know, or?
In Falmouth, we made sure we met with the school department and they put it in the newsletters. The launch date might be a little awkward for that because we're probably gonna be launching end of the school year. But you know, if it's May, then that's still a good amount
But
of time.
that's a good time too, though, because if the kids are bored during summer and wanna get around, like,
Right.
knowing that they have these options, they can propose them on that to.
Yeah, end of the school year, the structure starts to fade a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you might have finals and you can get out a little earlier, whatnot, so.
Do communities, like, what can we do as a town to promote this to get people during that initial launch to use it? You said it'll be free potentially, right?
We typically launch new service free,
Yeah.
again, just to remove one of the barriers that you might need to try it out. But yeah, we'll work with town staff on communicating that. try and organize some, we always have to piggyback on existing events because
Yeah.
we're not asking people to come to an event of something they've never heard of. If
Yeah.
we're at a farmer's market or we're at a, I don't know, Angela, I'm not sure if there's any stepping stone events over the summer, but we
Yeah,
usually try.
Summer Fest, which
Yeah,
is huge.
exactly.
But it would be cool for transportation and sustainability to partner to make it like. Take the bus week or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, or,
Giving
I know,
every student a flyer through the school system to
Yeah.
like
Right.
have and then bring home.
Right.
thinking like maybe.
Direct mail, I don't know
Yeah.
what budget. there is.
We did that for Falmouth as well. All these things are super great ideas and we need to do more of them. And we, like, what we heard in Falmouth is that despite all of our best efforts, there are still people that haven't heard of this. And it's just a little bit less intuitive than fixed route, where the bus comes every half hour in Falmouth's case, and you see it and it's just there. This vehicle could be a little bit more, in a good way in a lot of cases, but a little bit more stealthy in terms of it's smaller, it's not as imposing on the roadway. So we need to really spell it out for folks that it's out there. So
Tom, this looks like it's in your area where you live, so are you take the bus to work for a month? And encourage your
I
staff?
don't think I'm in the service area.
oh, we'll change
Yeah,
that.
I think you are though, for the micro transit, right? So you can get the
over
micro
Dustin.
transit and then get on the bus and then
I
take
don't
the bus.
know, I'm over in Nelson, so it, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if we could do a social media post where you're riding the vehicle and we cross promote it, and it could be, and I live in Yarmouth and they have a Friday 5, right? So the town manager is.
Only live streaming.
Yeah,
There you go.
the town manager does 5 things every Friday that's going on in the town, right? And so this certainly, if we ever brought this to Yarmouth, would be one of them. And so we might steal that idea for this, at least though for a one-off. So
Sure.
any and all of the above to get the word out for this kind of thing, because it is something that
Yeah.
needs to be explained to folks. So
I'd be happy to like try and take it to come to council meetings and stuff.
I was
just to
thinking
kind of-
that, yeah, like
Yeah,
any of our counselors or,
yeah,
town
invite
staff
your community to
or.
come with you, right?
yeah, we could do a cake with counselor on the bus.
No eating on the bus. but
Like,
that's-
My first council meetings go so low that I wouldn't get over.
Yeah.
So planning board definitely could not.
Yeah.
That's a
Are-
really-
You mentioned branding, they're not branded specific, it's a Metro Connect.
It's Metro Connect. No, we would want the interchangeability of the vehicles. Yeah, this is the second deployment of the service, but hopefully soon we'll have more. And so, yeah, it's a brighter kind of. The vehicles have some blue and green splashed in. I don't have a slide with it.
That was our cheerleader.
Yeah, I had it in the packet. It was in those slides from my council update. It had a picture of put in.
And we do have measurables similar to our fixed route that kind of measure success. If the amount of time from when you request a trip to when you get on, 15 or 20 minutes is ideal. And Falmouth it's like 7, because again, ridership isn't as high as it should be up there, down there or up there. But that's a pretty good level of service. And then 90% on-time performance is again, and Falmouth is like 99. So if we're below these, then it sort of says, okay, the zone might be too large, or maybe we need to add another vehicle. And so that's sort of what we look at to make those determinations.
What is it that people typically expect? Because like 20 minutes to me feels like forever.
Well, compared to fixed route service, right? If you're gonna walk to the bus stop, and the bus comes every half hour, which is more frequent than the fixed route service here will come. Then the average wait time is 15 minutes, right? So it's pretty close to that.
You could book it on an app similar to Uber, so you
Right.
could do it 15 minutes before you want to leave.
Well, you can also specify I need to be here by 8 PM or whatever, and they'll make sure, you might get there at 7:30, but you'll be there by 8 PM. You can also do, I need to leave at this time, and they'll make sure the vehicle's there at that time. So there's parameters you can put in as the requester as well.
What do you want for $2, John?
5 minutes.
And again, in Falmouth, that's what you get, and so hopefully, again, that's a symptom of lower ridership than we hope. In Falmouth, we're around 1 passenger per vehicle hour, we want to be closer to 2 or 3 here, which again is quite low compared to fixed route. Fixed route, a good fixed route services in Metro is 15 or so. And so again, it's a specialty service, it's providing that security blanket, that first and last mile connection. But really, the way you're gonna make a dent on traffic and make a dent on environmental impacts is by having that fixed route service and expanding that. So I don't wanna, and microtransit's great, it's going pretty well. In terms of making a dent on all the goals you have for traffic and environmental, the fixed route is where you're gonna see those improvements, so.
The game changer for me is if you have, you know, in Scarborough, it's probably, maybe there's a few people, but it's probably unrealistic that someone can get by without a car, even with this service. But if you can get to a point where a family that is used to having two cars could actually get by with one car.
Yeah.
This saving, that like household savings are.
$10,000-$12,000 a year.
That can
Yeah.
make living in Scarborough so much more affordable.
Right.
So to see that this could really fulfill that because of that microtransit component, where you don't have to use your own vehicle to drive to the bus stop.
Yeah.
But that it seems like such a promising idea, and I really want to make sure people know how to do it. There's a robust effort for.
Yeah, it's the average cost of a car ownership is $10,000-$12,000 a year, especially considering all the cars are so big these days. It's probably an SUV or a truck. With fare capping, you don't pay more than $720 per person, right? So it's a significant cost savings, so.
What about bike integrations? I
Yeah.
know some of the metro buses in Portland are equipped with bike racks on the front. Is that something that we could expect to see here for the fixed route buses?
Definitely for the
And then
fixed route, and
about microtransit?
yes, I have to check with this, but based on the meeting we had with Tom and Angela, that was a suggestion, considering, you know, you have such great trail network here. I believe we did buy bike racks for these vehicles, and also the vehicle that serves Falmouth now. Based on that suggestion, it won't quite work the same way as a fixed route bike rack with the big thing on the front, because, you know, the windshield's a little lower and all that, but I believe, and I'll verify this, and if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself, via email, but I believe we do have bike racks on the micro vehicles.
Can you bring like a dog on a leash?
We don't really have a whole lot of policy around that. I think, yes, you can, just make sure they're well behaved, but yeah, we don't have a dogs must be in bags policy like the MTA in New York does or anything like that. So that all that, I believe that's the case. I don't know if we have the service dogs only policy. I might have to get back to you on that. But the idea with microtransit, again, I'm gonna hedge it a little bit in case we opted not to buy the bike racks, is that the zone size is probably within the bikeable range of the fixed route, right? Obviously, if it starts to downpour, you're not gonna want to bike, and maybe no one wants to traverse Route 1, even if you do have a bike. But the idea being is it's pretty similar range, right? So if in fact we didn't get the bike racks for whatever reason, that's sort of the logic behind it.
Sure. Just wonder about like a bike, like if you were bringing it, like maybe you're busing to work,
Yeah.
want to ride home.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of folks, they could ride the Eastern Trail and then they don't want to ride all the way back, right? So there's a lot of folks that, I remember when I lived in Massachusetts, there were people that ride basically all the way up to like Newburyport from Boston and then take the train home, right? So that's certainly a use case there.
When we roll this out again, do you guys have good use cases that we can share? Because you're just making me think, like, what I was thinking as you were talking was, well, it would be nice, because I'm not gonna ride my bike to Eastern Trail, but it would be nice to take the bus or take microtransit to get to Eastern Trail with my kids, because I wouldn't want them riding their bikes to get there.
Yeah.
And so again, like, what are the use cases for the people in red that we can come up with that can really make it real of like how we want to promote who are the right audiences that really span across multiple users probably. Like I'm thinking of my wife tonight having to take one kid in Scarborough but another kid out of Scarborough to places while I'm here. And so we had to get my mother-in-law to come help, as opposed to like, we probably could have had our older son visit the place, take the bus.
Sure.
So mom could take one kid somewhere and then take the bus and come back. So that's like a personal use case. But again, I think there's probably a lot of things like that that we can come up with that could say, if this is what you do, here's how you could use
Sure.
it.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of times you can kind of create those hypothetical scenarios where oftentimes when you're changing routes, it's like today it might take you an hour because you have to wait for the bus for 10 minutes, take the bus for 20 minutes, transfer, and then in the future you want to make that transfer, so the whole trip will be 20 minutes shorter. So you can almost create those, even if they're imaginative, those scenarios where this could work better for your family. Even if it doesn't work for you for your commute every single day, I think being able to put your teenage kid on a bus, again, this isn't Uber, right? We're operating it with our own drivers and our own vehicles. I think that's a key point. I think a lot of parents would feel uncomfortable putting a kid in an Uber.
Yeah, no.
But this is not Uber, this is.
That'd be easy if you could.
$2, you're getting on the bus.
I'll meet you there.
And then I'll finally, I can keep talking, I'm up here, I'm happy to keep talking. But with the service coming to Scarborough, we do have past programs with a lot of different folks in our network. Lots of them are in Portland because that's where we have the most service, but we have high school pass programs. We have pass programs with certain employers, Maine Health. All their employees can ride for free, right? So if people live in Scarborough and work at the Maine Health campus, they could use this service to get to work without driving. So really capitalizing on those because that costs the rider zero. This is their employer, who cares, right? So
everyone in that red zone for free every single day could get to the Maine Health campus.
Right. Any Maine Health campus in our network, right? You can transfer and go to Falmouth if you need to, right? Or Maine Med, right? So I don't know if anybody deals with Maine Health, but it's often hard to find the right person to talk to about that. But I would love to make sure we talk to whoever the practice leader is here to make sure that they know that this is coming, and also that any of their employees can ride anywhere in our network for free.
So do you guys coordinate with like SEDCO and the Chamber of Commerce as part of your rollout for?
We certainly can, yeah.
Because I think that would be good for all businesses to know, like especially Hannaford.
Yeah. We've been in contact with Hannaford, and we have to follow up with them on that, but I know they have their corporate headquarters. I'm not, can't quite finger if it's in this zone or not.
It is.
But we'll have to make sure it is, yeah. But obviously the retail stores, all the employees that work there, again, if you have employees that are younger or older, or just don't have access to the vehicle, this is a great option for them.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, like, is there, going back to like the town having to fund this, like, are there ever instances where companies like them that have like Hannaford or Maine Health help to pay for it too, to make sure that, again, if it's a service that their employees are enjoying, that we're asking them to contribute?
The best example we have is USM with the Husky line. That group was created to they were running shuttles. So stop running shuttles, help us fund this route instead, and it'll be cheaper for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's necessarily applicable here unless we had a strong indicator that there would be a lot of rides. But what I will say is, again, the more people that ride on this route, in these zones and on this fixed route, that goes to directly offset the cost. That could basically, that fare revenue is the first thing that gets taken off the bottom line of the cost of this route. Then you apply the federal funding and the state funding, and then whatever kind of trickles down at the bottom is how much the municipalities are asked to pay. So higher ridership routes cost less money. So let's get everybody as many
Maine
people as
Health
we can.
runs a shuttle from Scarborough.
Maine Health runs shuttles from everywhere to everywhere else. It drives me nuts. So this could potentially help.
Yeah.
That's a line, right? Stop running shuttles. We can do this for you. Obviously, we don't want to overwhelm the system because they have 100 employees an hour trying to go back. I don't know what the number is, but if we think we can handle that capacity, that level of work, then we should. So.
Cool.
So exciting.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to come back. I'm happy to talk to the sustainability group about this stuff. We'll probably certainly be meeting with staff a couple times ahead of the council meeting. But yeah, we're really excited. And again, I will say we're hoping to launch in June for the fixed route, and maybe even a little earlier for the micro transit, especially if there's a kind of a soft launch free trial period. The fixed route service, we need to staff up for it, and hiring bus operators right now is a little harder than it used to be because of the there was a ruling about non-domiciled CDL holders. Basically, if you're not a naturalized resident of Maine, they're not issuing CDLs to them anymore.
Really?
And so that was a big kind of we tapped that well a lot through the Portland Adult Ed program, and we can't do that anymore. So we're doing our best to hire. We're already starting to hire up for this, even though it's only January, because that's how long it takes to hire bus operators. And you never know what happens. Sometimes you lose 3 or 4 bus operators to whatever reason, and so you kind of have to catch up. So I always kind of hedge my bets a little bit in terms of start date this far out, but the great thing is the funding's in place. We have a plan. We have ideas for bus stops, and once we finalize the route, we can really churn forward on that. So,
is there potential this summer to have access be part of the initial launch?
Yeah. if that's the direction the town wants to go, and
Yeah,
maybe
we
we.
tread lightly there, the beach activities, Pine Point's a lot easier because with town facilities and,
Yeah.
a safe place to pick up and drop off. Higgins Beach is a little more challenging just because of the congestion.
We're going to Scarborough Beach,
State law.
Yeah.
but it's still good.
Yeah.
I mean, parking's always an issue.
Yeah,
It
we
seems
try to
like
walk
that'd be
around.
an immediate cohort of a ton of people that would use it and
Yeah.
be introduced to the service. If we had, the ability to take that service to.
Yeah, and it might be a trial, right? Because if you're getting on the vehicle with two giant bags and a beach chair and you're dragging the sand, it might just not work for us, right? It might just be, this is too much of a maintenance issue. The ramp isn't deploying anymore because there's sand in the gears. We're willing to try
I
it.
might need to surf rack.
Right, exactly. We're willing to try it, and maybe it's one of the 3 beaches first. Pine Point also is a pretty decent density, some breadth of people, of folks there. I'm not sure if they're transit users or not, but looking at the density map, that area kind of popped up a bit. So that would, yeah, I think that's probably a good approach. We can start with the beaches that will be the least controversial to the residents, and I think the state park makes a lot of sense because it's a state park. But obviously to make sure it works for operation as well, so.
Or if it's self-interested, we'll lose parking revenue there. So
But isn't parking already at capacity?
passes.
Isn't parking already at capacity? Thought that was a
Not at-
discussion, so.
Not at all the beaches, is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Not all the beaches all the time.
Yeah, just trying to really make cities.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good point that you brought up. I didn't think about in the proposal you had about the beach communities, like maybe testing it out, sands beaches to start, and then eventually, to your point, like it would be wonderful someday to have this everywhere, but like if we have to be targeted and focused, that's probably the best way to at least do this first round.
Yeah, and there's a potential, I mean, chances are, unless the beachgoers overwhelm the system, which is a possibility, you're talking about 9 people getting off the bus off the vehicles, not the bus, the van. Is it really gonna make a dent in what people perceive the beach as in terms of crowds? I'm not sure. It would be a good problem to have in terms of transit ridership. Might be a bad problem to have for all the other reasons, but if we're talking about a fixed route bus and there are busloads of people coming in from Portland 45 at a time, that could be a different problem, so. All right,
Great.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
That's great, that's great, very exciting.
Yes, thank you. Oh, and before you leave, you will be receiving an email inviting you to our stakeholder group for our climate action plan. Try to get
Great.
Metro involved, especially with all this work that you're doing here in Scarborough. I think it'd be important.
Happy to, yeah, I've
I didn't
done
know if
similar
that's
things
not
in other
you.
communities, so. Yeah,
But I
absolutely,
Start with you.
Yeah.
So you'll get something.
great.
And I know it's obviously very late, and so I do just have, I guess I do a quick round of my updates, and then we can get out of here real quick. Wanted to make sure everybody's aware that Scottsville Hill Road, the council workshop is scheduled for February 4th, where we'll go over kind of the options that are available to us and looking at maybe potential funding associated with each of those options and have that conversation with council. Eastern Trail, Close the Gap, the Nonsuch River Bridge, was set back in December. If you guys, saw anything on social media, we're still getting some really good images that Allison's gonna post around that. And then in April, the Railroad Bridge is scheduled to be set. So that'll be very exciting. And then East Grand Ave, we are receiving actually, the design plans that I'm gonna post to the project page next week. And then have a public meeting. We had discussed at the beginning of the project doing this one as a virtual meeting, being in February. And there's a lot of out of town residents down there. So we are trying to schedule that for February 10th as a virtual meeting to try to just kind of walk through the design plans and get some public feedback around that. We'll also have the project page have a portal and opportunity for people to just comment, provide that feedback. Unfortunately, that doesn't have a back and forth. It's submit your comments kind of thing, and then we can discuss it here as a group. I have it slated for the February 24th meeting, kind of go over those comments and the public meeting, so we can talk about that. and
Angela,
give some direction.
should mention, we're also advocating through PACS to ideally do this project in DOT's work plan.
Well, I guess that's a question for Will.
Yep, our work plan is being finalized. And,
And that was the question, that one in our Highland Ave project, so just curious where, so it hasn't been finalized yet.
no, we expect it to be at least here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
But,
I didn't want to put Will on the spot, I was just saying, that doing our part advocating.
Well, he probably has more information, yeah, than I do, but that's all I get.
yes.
Or if it had already been finalized, he
Yeah,
could give us the good or
I
bad.
guess we're still working with PACS and we'll finalize.
I think this is further advocacy.
Yes, yep, yeah, no. Take it back.
And then our complete streets and traffic calming guidance manual, has been moving along through the consultant. And it is scheduled for, the next agenda here again, February 24th. To review that draft document, because that is also something that, we would like to, get comments, feedback on. That will have again, on the project page, be able to get, public comment, and it'd be good to get public here. Maybe if we advertise around that to get some public comment around that, so that might be a little lengthy. But to eventually, I'm not sure, I guess maybe it's a question for Tom separately, but when we get that manual finalized, is that a council kind of endorsement or adoption, or is that, yeah, I don't know what we want to do with that, or is it this committee, or what that means? So that's, stay tuned, I guess. I want to put you guys on the spot. And last thing is, we had a kickoff meeting today for Safe Streets for All, demonstration project, which Joyce talked about. Dakota was. Yeah, was in that, is the staff from DOT on that steering group. And again, Joyce mentioned about doing demonstration projects, let's try stuff, see what happens. So we have funding around that, so that's exciting. Looking at this committee prioritized the Route 1 pedestrian crossing, which does not exist at Little Dolphin. So people crossing 5 lanes of traffic there.
That's actually a location I was gonna suggest for a new crossing for
It
a
is
bus stop there. Yeah,
scary,
so
and people do it, and people have been killed doing it, so it's that, as well as I'm trying to work in a little bit of maybe trying to fix the pedestrian crossing on the north side of Hannaford. Drive, because that's a very,
Like with flashing lights.
to do what?
More than just this crosswalk, but one with like how we have it now in 114 by not such a group, but with the actual flashing lights
The
that really.
problem when you have 5 lanes of traffic, people aren't seeing it if it's.
Yeah.
Here, so it would be something more.
Yeah, and those are more expensive than people think. They're like, what, $30,000 on a normal case, and the bigger one like this would probably want that. So I think the demo project is probably, the budget's probably even less than that, so.
Well, you kind of can visualize like Thornton Academy, they have a lot of pedestrians there. And that was always a challenge to, you just have flashing lights on the side of the road, and that's, I believe, that's a 4-lane section, and that's. So anyways, it probably most likely would be some sort of temporary median refuge type of thing, I'm like guessing, or for the demonstration, then it goes away. If it works, we do take data around it, if it works, then I'll be coming to the town through budget process to ask for like a minute fix. Or something. Right, so.
Be good for Arby's.
And so we've been talking with Arby's, is looking at going that corner, so this is something that we can kind of figure out, like, oh, here's the plan. Yeah. So that, yes, they're talking about that also. So that's what I have. What going on?
Lot going on, yeah, thank you, and thank
And
you.
Reimagine Route 1, is that,
Reimagine Route 1 is actually coming to you very soon.
Yep.
I mentioned that earlier today. That project is, concept designs have been shared with municipalities. staff have looked at them at a high level and they're going back to GPCOG for review. And so there is a thought that there will be a communication coming out as part of the next round of edits that'll likely be coming directly from GPCOG to each community. Scarborough is one of them, with those concepts attached, looking for general endorsement or any fatal clause, really, not looking for a lot of detailed input at this point, because we have really done a fair amount of public outreach and engagement on that and worked closely with municipal stakeholders along the way, but also wanting everyone to be able to see what those projects look like and voice any high level questions or concerns at that point. And they are concept level designs, and so lots of detail yet to be worked out. So yeah, great. Thank you all for your extra time and for anyone that's watching this after that. Thank you, Will, and
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you all
for
very
coming.
much.
It's really helpful, and I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to fully have these conversations with the folks that are here visiting us. So a little extra time.
Thank you, Portia.
Yeah, thanks, Portia. Enjoy.
Just raise one point, Will, I should have done it with Joyce here. In partnership with DOT and the Route 1 project, the resiliency project across the marsh, staff has been made aware of some of the initial design considerations, I suppose, in terms of lane assignments and really how best to utilize the limited kind of real estate that exists today in terms of bike bed and vehicles as well. Some of those designs, I think there's great rationale for exploring these, but some I think will have a lot of public interest. And I just want to make sure that there's a way to involve the public before we finalize design.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know when that happens, how it happens, but
And that's another one we talked about with DOT doing a demonstration type of project and of doing anything permanent as early as this summer or next summer.
and what I'm referring to is they're considering, going down to one lane in one direction. So we can accommodate all the other needs of that real estate as well. So I think that demonstration project is something to do cheap and start to get feedback. Fantastic.
Orange drums.
It's good that there's grant funding and that the resiliency project is likely moving forward.
There,
No. Not yet. I don't think blind yet, I mean.
No, correct. Yeah.
But we should all be thankful DOT has not been deterred. They are moving through design, and typically these things get shelved and we will be starting at some point in the future. So I'm really pleased the work continues. I just want to make sure we don't get too far down the line without getting some public input.
Yeah, let me get schedule or thoughts about that and we'll be reaching out.
Thank you.
Schedule something. Yep.
I think we should have DOT at every meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Saco and I love transportation, so it's been a great evening for me.
Do you work out of the Scarborough office then, or are you going up to
Yeah, I
Augusta?
go up to Augusta.
I'm gonna shut off recording right then.
Bye, Portia.
Yeah.